Good evening and thank you for watching NTV. My name is Ben Mwine. You probably just finished having your dinner, which in most cases in Uganda probably included some chicken, maybe some beef, maybe some goat's meat. But how would you feel if I told you there's a chance that that meat could have been infected with something deadly that could have killed you? Probably have your attention now, don't I? Well, thank you for watching NTV. This evening, we get to talk about livestock and the importance of vaccinating livestock and something that's going on right now to make sure that the meat that you eat is very safe. And joining me to discuss this very important issue are some very important and intelligent people. I'll introduce them. Dr. Wesonga Wanderema is Commissioner of Animal Health at the Ministry of Agriculture, Animal Industry and Fisheries. Welcome to the show. Thanks a lot for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Another Dr. Massimo Castiello is the Deputy Representative for the Food and Agriculture Organization of the UN. Buonasera.
Buonasera, thank you very much.
You're welcome to the show. And we have Dr. Chris Ayawaziwe, who is foot and mouth disease specialist and control expert with FAO as well, but also with the Ministry of Agriculture, Animal Industry and Fisheries. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Ben.
Now, thanks a lot for joining us. I'll start with you, Dr. Wesonga. Normally, when people talk about livestock, you instantly think cows. But it goes a bit beyond cows, doesn't it? Livestock is a slightly more embracing term.
Yeah, actually it's very embracing because you are going to look at cattle, goats, sheep, may also look at even camels and donkeys, but it also stretches even up to wildlife so that we have the term actually animal, which embraces further. Mm-hmm. So you are dealing with domesticated animals, but you're also dealing with actually wild animals.
That all becomes part of livestock.
Exactly, exactly.
Dr. Massimo, you've been in Uganda for a while. There's a joke about especially children in the Western world. I would like to know if it's true or not. Apparently, when you ask a kid where milk comes from, they say the fridge. Is that true?
In Europe, it's quite a common happening. When you ask kids who are not being in the farming system, not being brought up in farms, that mainly town children used to watch TV and play with computers, they don't really know where the products they're eating on a daily basis are coming from. So it's not unusual to ask a kid where the milk is coming from and tell you coming from the fridge, or even the egg, telling that the egg is coming from the fridge. It's not something strange.
Which is very disturbing, of course. Dr. Chris, in Uganda, that's something that actually seems to be almost creeping into our society, especially in the urban areas these days. Many kids grow up and haven't seen a real live cow for quite a while, isn't it?
Yeah, of course, there are many dynamics. Most people are not chanced or to grow up looking after these animals. So you expect them not to know where the milk comes from, but of course it's our duty and responsibility to make them know where the milk comes from and the importance of milk and meat and other products like eggs.
And how to safeguard that. Yeah. Dr. Wesonga, I started off the show by almost scaring people by telling them that the meat they were eating could have easily been contaminated or dangerous. Maybe I might have been overstretching it a little bit, but there actually is a possibility that if not handled well, the meat that we eat, the livestock products that we have, could actually cause us a lot of problems health-wise.
Yeah, exactly, because we are looking at actually pathogens, which are viral, others are bacterial, others are fungus, others are protozoa, which actually, and if you are looking at animal diseases, about 75% of them now, actually, diseases which affect man come from animals, and about 60% of all infectious diseases in man probably also come from animals. So really we have to be very careful in that the upbringing of the animals, the inspection, certification. Luckily enough, government gives a conducive atmosphere in terms of policy, regulations, standards. So we have to inspect, certify, so that we produce a lot, but it's also qualitative and safe for man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Which is very important. Let's have a quick discussion, Dr. Massimo, about just how important it is that livestock, especially in a country like Uganda. The majority of us will not give it second thought. We'll go to a supermarket, we'll go to the shelf, pick a kilo of meat, maybe a pack of chicken, and that's it. And our thought process ends there. We go home, cook, eat, and that's it. But there's a much bigger picture at play, isn't there?
Livestock capital in Uganda is huge, big, and is a natural resource. Is in most of the case corresponds to population wealth at the same time. Most of the animals are produced in open range, and a lot of people in Uganda, specifically in certain parts of Uganda, have their livelihood completely rely on livestock rearing. So they produce livestock products, they use the same products to feed themselves, and whatever they can produce as surplus is then put into the market. And that is what in Kampala we usually go buy, cook and eat. Behind this, when you have a steak on the table, you need to understand, of course, that you have a steak, you can eat it, it's very good food.
It's juicy and tasty.
Yes, behind the steak there is an industry which it takes place in every small village. You see, even the smallest family owns livestock. Either can be a goat, a sheep, or a cow. So everybody contributes to that chain of production. And as it is an industry carries a lot of potential as well as carries a lot of risk. So, and one of the things we do to reduce the risk at the industry level is to reduce the impact of disease, which can kill animals, which can, in certain cases, can be an hazard to human health, as you pointed out before, but definitely reduce the number of animals available.
Right.
It's one of the main tools is to vaccinate, to protect, to make them healthy animals, so people can produce more meat, produce more milk, at the same time to have clean, safe meat, clean, safe milk for consumption.
Right. And at the tail end of our discussion, we'll talk a little bit more in detail about vaccination and what's happening, especially in the Karamoja area, a project that's going on there with the government and the FAO as well. If we talk numbers, Dr. Wesonga, he just mentioned how important livestock is as part of the economy and all. Where are we at in Uganda in terms of numbers? How many cows are there in Uganda? Do we have statistics for these things? How many, birds in terms of chicken do we have? Do we keep track of any of these figures?
Yeah, we are keeping track because we have been, livestock industry has been, in the agriculture sector, been very consistent in growth, meaning that really our policies, regulations, and the people responding to the industry have been coming up. So we are talking about something like about 17 million heads of cattle and probably 14 million goats, and probably about 4 million heads of sheep and goat each, and pigs and also sheep. But you're also looking at about 60 million poultry, and then about maybe 700,000 colonized beehives in the country. So we have quite a big potential.
Are those enough for us? It sounds like a big number,
yes.
But Dr. Chris, we also happen to have a very huge population, and we like our meat in this country.
Yeah. Of course.
We love it.
Yes,
we like our meat, don't we?
Yes, we do.
Are the numbers enough for us as a growing population? Are they growing in proportion with the population growth? Are we outgrowing our meat, if I can put it that way?
Thank you. Yeah, certainly the growth rate of human population is a little higher than that of animals. But it's our duty to work and upscale the population of animals to match the demand. As Dr. Wesonga said, we want to have enough meat, enough milk, enough proteins, because we are talking of raising children who can think. Because without animal proteins, we have a lot of other challenges. In class, you don't listen and all that. So, to be precise, we still need more proteins, and that's why we are here tonight, to ensure that we bring everybody on board to raise as much protein as possible.
And Dr. Massimo, before we came on to the show, you mentioned a fact that I'd never thought about before, that actually startled me, and I'm sure everyone watching will be very interested in this, about the fact that the source of protein that we have, animal protein, is strictly from...
Yeah, I mean, the only animal protein you can assess now in Uganda, as well as most of the rest of the world, is either meat, milk, or eggs. So all of them, of course, are coming from animals. And there is a one factor which is linked to what Dr. Chrysostom said. In every growing economy all over the world, in Asia was typical in the years ago, but is becoming more and more evident in Africa. In every growing economy, with the growing of the middle class and with the growing of the average income of people, there will be an increase in demand of animal protein. So people with hopefully bigger pockets, they will look for more meat, more milk, more egg. This has to be compensated by a strong industry. At the end of the story, we may not make the number growing as we wish, but our duty will be to make the industry more productive. We increase production and productivity, increase the access to market, to be sure that animal protein, meat, milk and eggs becomes progressively more available at the level of the people's expectation. But this is happening in a growing economy in Uganda. It's been happening in other growing economies all over the world.
And it's bound to be expected. I mean, you think about it. If you look at just the poultry, I think in Uganda, you see every other day you have someone telling you, I'm going into poultry farming, and yet you wonder, how are they managing to survive? Because everyone you know seems to have a small chicken farm somewhere.
Absolutely market-driven response. So people will try to eat, they will try to eat more, and they will try to eat better. And when they're talking about eating more, eating better, they identify it with protein of animal origin. So can be, in certain extent, also honey, but definitely egg, milk, and meat.
One of the things that you hear a lot of people saying is especially, we will be talking about Karamoja in a little bit, you hear about a lot of poverty in the region in Karamoja, Dr. Wasonga, and yet everywhere you turn, people in Karamoja have lots of cows in their kraals. That distinction between are you poor or not, even though you have a lot of cows, how do you bring that together?
You see, as a matter of fact, if you look at the IFAD area of which Uganda is part, you go up to Somalia, Ethiopia, and then Djibouti, we have the highest number of animals in the world, but we also have a lot of poverty. Why? Because the cow or a goat is the only livelihood that these people depend on. When crops fail, they go back to the animal. So it is a source of the total livelihood. So now, if you sold your asset, which is a cow, a sheep, goat, then you would have nothing in this world. That's why these programs are coming in through government of Uganda, FAO, to help these people who are very vulnerable, to improve livestock health so that you increase survival chance for these people by increasing productivity, food security, and also food safety and income earning.
Right. When you talk about that, the issue of quality comes in. At the moment, you might have, you mentioned, I think, 17 million cows, heads of cattle at the moment in Uganda. But in terms of production, and Dr. Masimo talked a little bit about this, Dr. Chris, the importance of the quality of the products that we get from this livestock becomes a critical thing, because right now in Uganda, the quality of our products, we can't really say it's up to international standard, can we?
We can't. Yeah, thank you, Ben. There are many issues we are looking at. We are looking at improving livelihoods. Tonight we are discussing Karamoja. Karamoja, you know, is a pastoralist area. Most people derive their food, more than 70% of their food from livestock. We are talking of blood here. You know, some people feed on blood from live animals. We are talking of milk. The milk we talk of is not the milk from dairy. We are talking of meat, where you are slaughtering meat maybe in the bush. So we are looking at how do we ensure that there is enough, these guys, the people who are in that area of the world, are able to get food, and they are able to get the best food. They are not diseased. They are not getting diseases from the food they eat. There are diseases like brucellosis, which sometimes it shows as abortions in animals, but in human beings it's called undulant fever. You get fever and you treat as if it's malaria, and it doesn't.
Because it will have all the symptoms of normal fever, but actually it won't be that.
So the quality is we have to ensure that these guys are able to turn the products available into a much more advanced form. Like a sausage, you will find a kilo of meat a kilo of meat costs maybe like 8,000 on Ugandan market. But with 8,000, yeah, when you go to a restaurant, you're able to get only a pay of sausage, which is equivalent to a kilo of meat. So we are looking at how do we make more from something less. Yeah, thank you.
The president keeps talking about that quite a lot in terms of being able to add value to our products, and I'm hearing that coming from you gentlemen. Even though you're not economists, you actually vet doctors, but yeah, you get to have a lot of understanding about these things. Let's take a very quick break, and then when we come back, we talk a little bit more about just how important the livestock industry can be for Uganda, the potential that it has, but also importantly, why it is extremely critical and crucial for us to be able to safeguard it through making sure that the animals are healthy and safe, and what the government of Uganda is doing in collaboration with some partners, including the FAO and others. When we come back, and of course we'll get to hear from you as well, in case you have any questions to add to our discussion. We'd love to hear from you when we come back from the break. Welcome back. You're watching NTV. My name is Ben Wynne. I'm having a very interesting discussion here with some very special doctors. Dr. Wesonga is Commissioner for Animal Health at the Ministry of Agriculture, Industry and Animal Fisheries. The ministry has a very long name, but it's they're all important, so we have to put them
all inclusive,
all in there. Dr. Massimo Castiello is Deputy Country Representative for the Food and Agriculture Organization of the UN. Thanks a lot for being with us on the show as well today. And then we've got Dr. Chris Iwazube, who is an foot and mouth disease control expert with the FAO, but also is on secondment from the ministry as well. We were talking a little bit about livestock in Uganda and the industry as a whole. We get to talk a bit more in terms of what the FAO is doing with some partners, especially the DFID from the UK aid. But before we get to that, we had started having a very interesting chat about what livestock actually means for Uganda as a country. Our president likes to talk a lot about how we should be adding value to our products and what we can be able to do. Can you gentlemen paint a picture for us about the potential that this industry of ours has in terms of being able to add on to our economy, which of course ultimately means for the livelihood of the normal person, Dr. Wesonga?
Yes, please.
Why should it be of concern to me how well the livestock industry does in Uganda and what potential it has for us as a country?
Yeah, first of all, about 7 out of 9 households have some form of livestock. And Professor Fele says even the poor can benefit from livestock as long as you control diseases and control shocks to the farmers. So the potential is high in that if we can, first of all, improve animal health through prevention, control, eradication of diseases, pests, and vectors, we should be able to increase productivity immediately in terms of the number of animals which stay alive, those which reproduce, those which give milk, eggs, hides and skins and so on. And when you look at the meat alone, we are progressing in that we are having about 250,000 metric tons of meat if you combine goat, cattle and so on. Eggs are also improving in quantities. We are dairy, we are at 1.9 billion liters a year. And so we are improving in terms of exports from the agriculture sector, all because we are improving animal health, but also looking at value addition as you go along the value chain. If we improve value addition, then you are realizing more from the little. So I think that's the way to go.
The president said something that was, I think, misconstrued by a lot of people when there was an issue with the teachers. He told them to, have some goats on the side. Many people took that wrongly, Dr. Massimo, but yet, actually, when you think about it, it actually helps in terms of adding a lot of, it's not the most difficult thing to do to be able to raise livestock and use it for commercial purposes, is it?
No, absolutely not. It requires some basic skill, which are most of them are inherited by the people. We all come from a peasant economy.
Yeah,
so we remember
something that you know by default.
Yeah, by default, you should know.
What is important to understand that everybody can contribute to the livestock economy as a whole, regardless to the size. The issues are mainly two. The fact that, as I said before, we need to sanitize the industry to be sure that animals survive very well, so they're protected from disease. On the other side, we need to be sure that whatever is produced can be turned into a quality products, and this follows the discussion along the value chain and the value addition. This guarantees two main things. One side, if you operate along the value chain, you can input sanitary standards along the chain, so you can really sanitize the product to be sure by the time you reach the final consumer carries a very low risk in terms of health. On the other side, as I link with what I said before, growing class, growing wealth will demand more food, but will also have a strong orientation toward a diversification of food. So people will not be looking for milk only. We'll be looking for yogurt, for cheese, and is where the value addition comes. So people will be able to, if they produce and they follow the value chain approach, will be able to produce more, to produce better, to fulfill their specific demand, and to have an increased income. So this is where the livestock sector will really produce a benefit. And this is not related to the size. Even small household with a number of animals well managed and healthy can be entered into the value chain. Exactly. To milk or for meat does not exclude them by any way.
So you wanted to say something?
Yes, yeah, I just wanted to point out the area of opportunities which we have. Uganda is one of the countries where you go and you find these animals can even sleep outside, leave alone human beings.
Well,
the weather, you don't have winter.
Yeah.
You have sunshine all through. You have pastures, you have natural pastures. And we have some resistant breeds of animals.
The conditions are very conducive for us to have a very vibrant...
So we always say the sky is the beginning. So it's up to any of us to tap the immense opportunities available and make life better.
Much better for us. Yes, Dr. Masumo, you were saying something.
One important point Chris raised. Once we remove the issue of the disease, because we know we have the tools to control them. We have the human resource in the country, we have the technical capacity to control disease.
We shouldn't be disturbed by disease.
No, we should be disturbed by a very limited extent, as other countries. But on the side of that, in Uganda we are enjoying probably the best meat production because our animals are kept in the open range. They just eat grass and they drink fresh water. They are not put in a feedlot, they are not put in zero grazing, they are not put in stressful condition to have the maximum turnover of meat from food, as in other countries happen. So they are in an open range, they eat natural grass, they drink fresh water, they have no issue, no use of chemical. In most of the area, there is not even residual of pesticides, the very, very limited use of drugs or antibiotics like this. So we definitely, there is no use of growth hormones. So we, on the other side, in terms of qualitative characteristic of the meat, we are enjoying probably one of the best meat in the world. So we should capitalize on that because it's organic meat.
Let me see if I understand this properly. What you're saying basically is that if we manage our production well in this country, Uganda basically has the potential to be one of the best exporters of meat anywhere in the world. Because let's face it, gentlemen, right now the rage across the world is for organic products.
Exactly.
People will kill you for organic products. And what you're saying, Dr. Masumo, is that Uganda currently has the potential to be a leading producer of organic livestock products.
Yes.
So why aren't we doing this? It baffles that. That's something we're not...
No, it's actually, I can answer that. It's an issue of abundance. Most people, because you are in an environment whereby most things are natural and free, you don't take much time to make it better. So it's somebody else who comes and does it for you. So we just now have to wake up and do what it takes to reach the destination.
And also secondly, I think it's the issue of policy at the government level. The Minister of Agriculture definitely is engaging, coming up to that area where we can make policies which can help us to have these organic products. Already, I think in the crop sector that is happening, so we believe that also livestock, we should be coming on board. We get the right policies to develop the area and also supportive regulations so that people can also even do self-regulation so that you aim higher.
Right. Don't forget, in case you want to join another discussion, you can call us. The phone numbers on your screen. Please feel free to call us. When you do call us, of course, tell us your name, where you're calling from, and keep your question or comment to under 30 seconds so that we can take as many phone calls as we can, as we have this very interesting discussion about livestock in Uganda. Now, in particular, to bring it down to something a bit more specific, we've talked about the potential that we have and what we should be doing. But that, of course, all hinges on being able to protect these animals and make sure that, like Dr. Massimo said, the sanitization of the industry and what happens in there. And we need to have a discussion about what needs to be done about that, in particular with Karamoja, which is one of the driest places and which becomes a bit of an issue, and we'll get into that in just a little bit. Let's start by going on to our phone lines and taking some phone calls from you. Thanks a lot for watching NTV. Please tell us your name and where you're calling from. NTV, welcome to the show. Good evening. Hello, thank you for watching NTV. Welcome to the show. NTV, welcome to the show. Good evening. We'll come back to the phone lines in just a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about Karamoja and what's been going on with vaccination, because that's where it all starts. It's very important to make sure that the livestock is now protected. And this is where, Dr. Chris, you come into your element, especially in the area of disease control. You're a foot and mouth control expert. How much of a threat has that been to our livestock in Uganda at the moment?
Yeah, thank you, Ben. Foot and mouth disease is a disease of livestock, cloven-hoofed animals, those animals with two fingers, apart from the horse, which has the circular one. So this disease is very dangerous because it impacts on the socio-economic welfare of our people. The recent outbreak in Karamoja in 2014 cost not more than 40 billion, which was just directly calculated, but studies are still going on, and maybe it may go over 100 billion shillings spent, lost by the farmers.
Wow.
Some animals are dying.
That's a very big loss when you think about it from any perspective whatsoever. 100 billion shillings. 100 billion and maybe more, you're saying.
Yeah. So in terms of food, people lack food. In terms of trade, there is no trade because normally there is quarantine, which stops any movement of livestock and livestock products. There is no milk. The animals will not be able to give you milk. They will be having poor growth rate. So in short, it's even political, because once people have no food, once people have no money to go to the hospital, and once people have no money for luxury, some people can't get wives because of foot and mouth disease. You cannot marry.
That's an interesting one to look at, but actually it's actually very true.
Yes.
If your cows are all dying, how are you going to pray bride price?
So it's very devastating in a pastoral area. You are left with nothing.
It becomes a big problem. Let's take some phone calls. Maybe someone who has failed to get a wife and needs to share their experience. Thank you for watching NTV. Welcome to the show. Hello, what's your name and where are you calling from? Hello, thank you for watching NTV. Good evening and welcome to the show. Hello, welcome to NTV and thank you for watching the show. Your name and where are you calling from?
I'm Isaac from Port.
Yes, Isaac. No, we seem to have lost Isaac on the phone. We'll come back to him. Let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll come to the phone lines and take some more of your phone calls, and of course, hear a little bit more about what's happening with vaccination in Karamoja, together with the FAO and the government of Uganda. We'll be right back. Welcome back and thank you for watching NTV. My name is Ben Mwini. We're talking about animal disease control in Uganda, especially in Karamoja. And we're having a very lively discussion about livestock in Uganda, the potential it has and what needs to be done to make sure that we can realize that potential. Of course, still with Dr. Wesonga from the Ministry of Health, as well as Dr. Massimo from the FAO and Dr. Chris Ayewezwe, who is also with the FAO from the ministry, and we're talking a little bit about what's happening in Karamoja at the moment. The Department for International Development of the UK is funding a project with the FAO in Karamoja right now to have some disease control in terms of making sure that animals are vaccinated. Do you share some light on what's happening with this program? How's it going? How many animals are we looking at vaccinating over what period of time? Some more details on that, Dr. Chris.
Yeah, thank you, Ben. The program is called Enhanced Resilience Program in Karamoja, and it's aiming at reducing the impact of animal diseases on the livelihoods of pastoralists in Karamoja. We hope by December 2015 to have vaccinated at least 1 million goats and sheep against one of the most dangerous diseases of goats called PPR, or goat plague. That disease comes and kills many goats and sheep at once. I had talked about foot and mouth disease. We hope to be able to vaccinate 280,000 cattle against foot and mouth disease, and we hope also to vaccinate 500,000 cattle against CBPP. CBPP is like a disease of lungs of cows, and it's also very dangerous. And these diseases we are talking of cross borders. The animals, as they move to Kenya, the diseases cross there. Or
they carry the disease.
When we get the disease, that's why we call them transboundary. So we hope we can do all that work, but there are many other pertinent issues like capacity building. There are regional labs being developed in Karamoja. We have the Moroto Regional Lab, Karamoja Regional Veterinary Laboratory. It is being developed. But of course, there is also an emergency project by FAO to support 6 other regional labs in the country.
Maybe Dr. Massimo can tell us a little bit about that project. What's happening with, what are the labs doing? What are you hoping to achieve with having these labs in the regions?
Laboratory setup is part of the wide surveillance system. So in very basic terms, we try to detect the disease as fast as possible. So by the time there is a report of an outbreak of a disease, we have been building the capacity of
people. Can be contained in a short time.
Yeah, building the capacity of people to go and detect immediately, to understand what are the immediate measures to be put in place to contain the outbreak, to save the animals around, and to prevent from the disease to spread in other areas. One of the components is to have the capacity in a very short time to have a laboratory support for basic diagnosis, to be sure to confirm that whatever has been seen, whatever is suspected in the field, can be confirmed in the lab. This is part of the intervention, but as Chris mentioned, we are looking at people's resilience and the capacity of people to keep on working and to keep on living in that environment, overcoming the shock and the stress. I mentioned before the possibility in Uganda, in certain areas, to produce organic meat on free range, on grass, and on open range. But these need to be seen also on the there is another component we need to see. The open range are the most stressful areas where to keep people and livestock. So there is a number of
livestock are moving around quite a bit.
The fact that they have to keep animals in the open range means they have to keep a very high level of mobility.
Right.
Mobility means that you have to be capable to access grass and water. So when we talk about resilience, vaccination is a big component of it. Try to preserve the animals where they are. But also we are intervening, for example, in water development. We are doing, we are now constructing through our partners 21 valley tanks in all the districts in Karamoja. We are providing also fridge to store vaccine, to be sure that by the time people are able to identify the disease, they can have the vaccine there and they can go back to the field in 1, 2, 3 days and respond immediately. We are working on component of agriculture with farmer field school. Our farmer field school approach is our approach to agriculture at community level, and also very important, we are supported the government to implement an early warning system. Early warning system for any shock or disaster which may occur. We try to put a system in place where people are aware before the shock or the disaster comes. At least comes.
Interesting you should mention that. Let's try and take some phone calls, and then we'll talk a little bit about the people and the farmers in particular. Thanks a lot for calling NTV. Please tell us your name, where you're calling from, and keep your comment and question to under 30 seconds so we can take as many phone calls as we can. Good evening. Hello and welcome to NTV. Thank you for watching the show.
Hello, yes, good evening.
Your name and where you're calling from, sir?
My name is Walter Kwat. I'm calling from Gulu right now.
Yes, Walter.
Yes, my concern is in the Karamoja region, you do not have quite a number of veterinary surgeons who were taking care of the animals there. And there's a group of the community animal health workers in this region. I would want to find out what is the ministry's position in terms of first recognizing these structures of animal health workers to perform the role of veterinary assistants or something like that. But also, I'm aware that there's a veterinary legislation that bars unqualified people from performing this kind of role. Is there some kind of special arrangement or an amendment to this legislation to enable the community animal health workers perform this role freely? And what is FAO's contribution to supporting this kind of structure, especially in terms of capacity building? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Walter. Duly noted. We'll hand that over to Dr. Massimo and Dr. Wasonga in just a little bit. Thank you for calling NTV. Good evening, and thank you for watching the show. Your name and where you're calling us from? Hello, welcome to NTV. Thank you for watching the show. Your name and where you're calling from? Hello, welcome to NTV.
Yes,
Your name, madam, and where you're calling from?
I am Stella calling from Karamoja.
Yes, Stella.
First, I would want to thank FAO for supporting the farms in Karamoja, especially on livestock sector. But I also have a few questions here, like what is FAO doing in controlling the tick-borne diseases, which is affecting production in the livestock sector in Karamoja? And secondly, we are also aware that we have been struggling for a policy on pastoralism, which would have helped the government invest more in the livestock sector in order to improve on the livestock in Karamoja. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Stella. It's good to hear from you. We'll take one more for now. Thank you for watching NTV. Welcome to the show. Your name and where you're calling from? Good evening, and thank you for watching NTV.
Hello.
Hello, good evening.
Hello.
Your name and where you're calling from, sir?
Frank Mwine from Makerere University.
Yes, Frank.
Yes. Hello.
Yes, Frank, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Hello, this is Frank calling from Makerere University.
Frank, when you do call us, please step away from your TV so the feedback doesn't affect your hearing yourself. That's why you might have a problem being able to communicate clearly. Good evening. Well, thank you for watching NTV.
Hello?
Yes, good evening, sir. Your name and where you're calling from?
Calling from Tororo. This is Water Fred from Tororo.
Yes, Fred. How is Tororo?
Not bad. I'm watching NTV live.
Oh, sorry, we lost you there, Fred, in Tororo. Please do call us back. Would love to hear from you. Good evening, and thank you for watching NTV. Hello. Let's deal with Walter, Stella's issues before we run out of time, because they had some very pertinent things to raise, especially starting off with Walter, Dr. Wasonga. Yeah. Walter had some questions about vet surgeons or the lack of therein, especially in the Karamoja area.
Yeah, really. The issue here is because of environment as such, semi-aridity. But if you look in history, even in the colonial times, 36, Karamoja was the only country, I think, which recorded the lowest level of staffing, okay? But government is as, of course,
Is that because people don't want to go to Karamoja?
because of the hardships at that time, cattle rustling, and then, of course, drought and so on, okay, associated insecurity. But now government has put in place security, it's opened up roads, electricity, and we have sent money to all districts to recruit staff. One veteran officer per sub-county. If we achieve that, then we also review the Veterinary Surgeons Act to ensure that we have formal training of the private sector veterinarians who can now go in and set up practice, but also to improve the economics of practice. That is at that level. Then
plus, we have had a minister who is very passionate and proactive about Karamoja as well. I think that must be noted.
Yeah, very much, because she has brought in development, and you go there, you are seeing tarmac roads now, you have electricity, you have people enterprising, reduction of pastoralism up to about 8% only from high level. So people are now settling down. There's water around for animals, and cattle rustling is as good as not there. So the communities are settling in, so we are coming in really to reduce the impact of disease. And so that's where we expect more veterinary surgeons, government, at a regulatory level. But as we improve the environment, we are going to look at the community animal health workers, because our policy talks of privatization of some of the practices, okay? So we are going to retrain these people, and eventually the Uganda Veterinary Board, under the Veterinary Surgeons Act, is definitely going to ensure that we are having people at certificate level, formal, diploma, Bachelor of Veterinary Medicine, Masters, and PhD, and so on. So there is a formal structure coming to supervise and support and ensure we have quality and safe services.
Very well said. Dr. Massimo, what I was also asking about what FAO is doing to support the government in this particular regard. You had touched on it a little bit. Maybe you just want to reassure Walter in terms of what FAO is doing in conjunction with the government here.
All the activities related to vaccination and disease control in Karamoja are carried out in full partnership between FAO and the government. Our aim is to use all the possible network of the government already present in Karamoja, professionalize them, so keep on building their capacity in responding to disease, and the setup of laboratories and the setup of specific task force for foot and mouth control are already component of it. We will be able to strategize better together with the government in the coming months what is the best way of delivering service in this, up to the point that Karamoja in East Africa can be taken up as a model for delivering of service. It is the constraints are the fact that most of the people with high level of academic education do not expect to go to such a remote area, but they tend to remain in town to sell medicine, open pharmacies, which is understandable. On the other side, the low value of individual animals and the fact that they are scattered all over a vast area does not really does not really allow people to move with cars using a lot of fuel for clinical work or surgery work. There's a combination of these two factors is one of the main reasons for having Karamoja has been chronically, as doctors say, understaffed. So we are working on the economic model for service delivery, and we are working also to enforce not only the net of human resources. For example, we are working in making some veterinary drug pharmacies more competent, more effective in distributing veterinary drugs in the field. This linked to the other question which came under tick-borne disease. There's a big outcry, maybe Chris.
Yes, actually, Chris Stella was asking a little bit about the issue of disease.
One of the components is also to support the pharmacy in having veterinary drugs available.
Right.
Yeah, thank you, Ben. Of course, there are many stakeholders in animal disease control or animal industry as such. So we hope the private sector can play some role. We work together with private sector and other development partners to ensure that all the different requirements are met. So we cannot say it's one solution fits all. But FAO, together with the Ministry of Agriculture, Animal Industry and Fisheries, we are embarking on some roadmaps. For example, we expect by 2024 to have almost eradicated foot and mouth disease and PPR. In foot and mouth disease in goats, in cattle mainly, and then PPR in small ruminants, the goats and sheep. So we are working, it's a big, big dream. We are working on big programs to ensure that all the facets are in place, and we expect the different stakeholders, the training institutions, the politicians, the non-government organizations. So when you control some of these big diseases, certainly you have also controlled most of these other diseases. If you control foot and mouth disease, you have solved more than 80% of the problems which those farmers may face.
Well, we have to leave it there, unfortunately. Dr. Chris Ebazube, thanks a lot for being with us. Dr. Osimo as well, Deputy Country Representative, FAO. It's been a pleasure having you. And of course, Dr. Nsonga, who is Commissioner of Animal Health at the Ministry of Agriculture, Animal Industry and Fisheries. You have to complete that. We hope you have enjoyed the discussion. Next time you go to enjoy your beef burger, or that juicy steak, or that nice piece of meat that has a nice bone on it, you might want to know what this gentleman actually doing to make sure that your meat is healthy for you and your family. On behalf of the entire crew at NTV, my name is Ben Mwine. Have a good night.